So what does it look like if you're 60 years old and you've got $1 million in your retirement accounts? What can you expect the first couple years? Take a walk with me and let's talk about this. Before we go though, I want to point out behind me there's this tree with some shoes in it. The local community that I'm visiting, there's a tradition here, and if you stay to the end, I'll tell you what the rumor is as to how that all got started. So getting back to our topic at hand, retiring with $1 million, you're 60 years old. One of the challenges you're going to have, at least here in the U.S., is, healthcare insurance is typically provided by our employers, and getting healthcare insurance is probably job number one in that situation. And you can look and get onto the platforms, the health exchange platforms, and see what type of insurance you can get and what that's going to cost. And it's going to depend on your specific situation as to what it can cost. Unfortunately, in the U.S., even on the exchange, even on the government exchange, healthcare costs are very, very high. Of course, if you were working with a company, COBRA is an option for the first 18 months. So that's going to be a piece of it is healthcare insurance. The next piece is, how much money can you plan on taking out if you have $1 million portfolio and you're 60 years old? So the rule of thumb is 4%. And that's based on a couple factors that's important for you to know. The gentleman that came up with the 4% rule is a gentleman by the name of Bill Bengen. And he did a lot of statistical studying using techniques called Monte Carlo simulations and others. And his question was, how much can you take out every year and not have the fear of running out of money before you run out of life? Super important. But it's important for you to know that study was based on about a 30-year lifespan. So if you're 60 years old, you have a better shot of needing this money for more than 30 years than if somebody was 65. So that's a limitation on the 4% rule. But I think you can start off thinking about it in the ballpark there. Now, this is not financial advice. I don't know your specific situation. I just want to quickly see if I can show you this bubbling brook here behind me. So that's the noise that you're hearing. This is just a beautiful location I'm at today. Again, I don't know your situation. You should definitely talk with a fee-only financial advisor before you pull the plug and decide to retire at 60, because you want to have certainty. You want to have, I should say, as much clarity as possible, and you want to make sure that your numbers are right. So what does the income look like? I think you can start off looking at about 4%. Maybe you want to be a little more conservative because you have a longer time that you're going to be in retirement. So that's another thing that you need to look at is your cash flows. We talked about your healthcare insurance costs and how to get that into place. And then what does your investment portfolio look like, right? I mean, you have a long-term time horizon. And a lot of financial advisors would tell you, you need to be fairly conservative when you enter retirement. And the argument for that is, this is your nest egg, and once you quit working, it's likely that it would be difficult to find another job that would pay you what you're getting paid now, right? You've probably been doing what you're doing for a while, unless you have a super specialty. You're an attorney with a specialty or a physician with a specialty. But if you're a general manager at a company, it can be difficult to get that job back. If you work where your job is physically demanding, I can certainly see why you'd want to retire earlier, right? It's one thing to go to work and sit at a desk all day. It's another thing to be in a job that's physically demanding, that requires a lot out of you physically. And you may just not want to go back. So you want to make sure you get the numbers right, and we can make, as humans, we can make a lot of things work, right? I mean, if somebody said, this is what my budget is, you can probably have a really enjoyable retirement with that. If somebody said, gee, your retirement's this number plus $20,000, you could probably have a lot of fun with that as well. And of course, the challenge is somebody says, this is your retirement, but it's going to be $5,000 less a year or $10,000 less a year. Then things can get tight, right? But you still have flexibility. There's still adventures that you can have. I don't talk about this much in my channel, but people do move overseas where the cost of living is lower. And that can be an adventure for you until you decide to start taking Social Security and get that extra boost in income. And on the topic of Social Security, that's another thing that you're going to have to think through is when do you want to start taking Social Security? And that's something that you really need to talk to a specialist on to make the decision that's right for you. If it came down for me, the decision of, gee, if I took Social Security early, and you can start at 62, if I took Social Security early, I could retire now. But if I don't take Social Security and I wait, then I won't be able to retire. That would, for me personally, I don't know your situation, but for me personally, that would be very tempting because, we live on our adventures and our experiences and our relationships. And yes, every year that you don't take Social Security, that payment goes up. But I think there's a lot to be said for being able to get out of the rat race and taking the stress that often comes with work. Getting rid of that when you can, when it makes sense for you. Now, if you love what you do, this video is about what does life look like if you retire at 60. But if you love what you do and you really enjoy it and you're skipping to work every day, maybe don't retire at 60. But if you do retire at 60, you do have that decision. When are you going to start to take Social Security? So that's something else that needs to be on your mind. Obviously, if you take Social Security early, then that's an extra cash flow that comes in. That's going to be helpful. But in the later years, you're going to have less money. But you'll have more memories. You'll have more adventures. You might be healthier. You can take, in general, you're retiring 5 years sooner than when a lot of people in the United States retire. You can use that period to stay healthy or to repair your health, to really work on that. So that could be a trade-off worth taking, right? Once your health is gone at our age, it's hard to get it back. So maintaining your health is job number one. So we talked about what kind of cash flows. We talked about health care. Also at 65, for most people, Medicare kicks in. So you've got a 5-year kind of gap there. I mentioned COBRA will cover the first 18 months of that. COBRA tends to be expensive. You're paying the full cost. In the past, your employer was paying some of that cost. So that's the health insurance side of things. And then what does your portfolio look like? How should you have that invested? And I don't know your specific situation, but you're looking at, you probably need to plan for at least 30 years unless you've got a health situation. I hope you don't. So that's a long period of time. And with a long period of time, you can ride out the volatility that's often associated with having stocks. I just want to show you this bubbly brook here. I'm going to have a seat here and finish up this video. So those are the major components. Again, I mentioned earlier that Bengen's study, where the 4% rule comes from, that is based on a fairly aggressive portfolio, anywhere from 50 to 70% exposure to stocks and exchange-traded funds, tools that are going to be fairly volatile. And for sure, if you're 70% in the stock market, you're going to feel that volatility. So just thinking, just telling yourself that you need 70%, because of the 4% rule, that is not the way to make your asset allocation. The way to make your asset allocation is thinking through, in the scary days, if you're going to be retired 30 years, it's likely that you're going to have some pretty negative down days. I don't have a crystal ball, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have at least a year that's down 20%. During the financial crisis, the market was down almost 60%. Could something like that happen again? Could something like that move the market like COVID, where it was the fastest 30% decrease in the market history? Could something like that happen again? Yeah, I think it could. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. So those are the major things that I think you need to think about. I do think, it's highly likely, I don't know your situation, but, being able to retire, oftentimes once people go through that unknown and they transition from this world that they've known for 30 or 40 years, which is the work world, once they transition to the other side and see what retirement's like, boy, more often than not, people are like, I wish I had done this sooner. So I definitely think it's worth your time exploring and seeing if it's an alternative that makes sense for you. And if it is, then double checking your math. Again, I would encourage you to work with a fee-only financial advisor just to make sure your numbers are correct. Okay, I want to close the video with talking about that shoe tree that was at the beginning of the video. So the rumor is, so this was a mining town back in the day before it became a ski resort town. And the rumor is that the miners did that just as a way to celebrate kind of the end of the winter. They have long, hard winters here, even harder before they had, natural gas plumbed into every home. They had wood fires to keep themselves warm. They were down in the mines all day. It was dark when they came home from work. So to celebrate, they threw their shoes up in the trees. Another rumor, frankly, nobody knows for sure, but another rumor is in the 70s, one summer evening when it was just a beautiful day, there were some young people in the park that's right near that tree, enjoying some wine and enjoying some time with their friends. And they spontaneously decided, hey, let's make a work of art here out of the tree and let's throw our shoes up. And over the years, the city has tried to say, well, gee, this is an eyesore. We should clean this up. We should take it down. But the locals keep throwing their shoes up in the tree. And I understand that the shoes are donated here locally. So it does have at least a lower impact ecologically. So that's the story of the shoe tree. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help other people find this channel, find people like yourself that videos like this can help. Leave me a comment. I do read the comments. I find them super motivational. I'm really grateful for the positive community that we're building in the comment section. So take a second, hit the like button, leave a comment, or as the younger YouTubers would say, thumbs for likes and subs for love. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.